Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Everquest Old School. And on this episode, we are over at the wall yet again. I am level 11 with my Cleric, and as you can see, I'm just about to be level 12, pretty close. If you guys want to try to guess how many kills it's going to take for me to get that, I'm kind of leaning towards probably about 15, maybe 16 kills. What is it? Sorry, was M, but Tyan. The name. Not sure what she meant by that. Close that down. Keyboard is dying. Okay, so her keys are getting stuck together or something along those lines. I literally just joined this group, so I guess they're still reforming after whatever happened. Maybe they lost a few people. Maybe they had a death or two. I'm not sure. It does look like there's a corpse right here in front of us with all the armor on it. So maybe they just had a bad train or something along those lines. But I know you guys are probably getting a little tired of seeing Crushbone. I have been here for quite some time. Do not fret, guys. I plan to level this guy up to probably around level 13 or 14. And then we're going to go off to Unrest so that you guys can see a new zone. I'll go through all the different areas in that zone like we did here. So it's going to be coming up here pretty shortly. So if you guys do like this zone, well, I probably will be here with my Paladin for a while, leveling him up as well, so you guys can still see more footage of that. But for those of you who are wanting to see a different zone coming up here in the future, that's going to happen pretty soon. Father of Thuron has returned at last. Okay, not quite sure what that means. It looks like maybe we got our tank back. So we'll just have to, since we're sitting here waiting anyways, I'm going to go ahead and buff everybody up. And I'm going to do that by timing it with myself. I'll give my buff to me first. And then when it wears out on me, I know it's wearing out on everybody else. And now, to figure out what order to give it to people, well, you want to give it to the tank first. Before the casters. Now, granted, the casters could probably use it a little bit more than the tank as far as like hit points go, but chances are the casters aren't going to be taking hits nearly as much as the tank, and so you definitely want to put it on them first. There talk of dragons in these parts. Wait a minute, how do you know my name, human? I don't know what they are talking about. Maybe it's an inside joke that I'm not aware of. Let's see, I think we have a monk over here too. I'll go ahead and give the buffs to him. Don't want to go too low because they may start pooling and just expect me to be at full power. And as you can see, they use a significant amount of my mana. There we go. Now I'm at 50%, so I'm going to go ahead and med back up. Try to get to at least 70-75% before they pull. Let me go over here and tell them where I'm at on percentage. And they can make the judgment call. Tell them it's 60%, which is a little bit less than what I'm actually at. I'm at about 55%, so Orc Legionnaire, kill it. So that's his incoming key. Everybody has a different one, so just be aware of what they are so that you know that's who's talking. Some people will have a hotkey made if they're an enchanter and they're mezzing things, saying mezzing so-and-so, please don't touch, or touch it and I'll kill you. You know, they go all out sometimes, so it's nice to have those keys. It does spam quite a bit, but for the most part, you kind of want to know. And you may be a caster and never really have to make one of those. Like a wizard doesn't necessarily have to make a hotkey. I've seen a few of them do it, especially if they're about to cast like Ice Comet or something along those lines, and they know it's going to steal quite a bit of hate. They may make a hotkey saying casting Ice Comet on so-and-so creature to let the tank know that he may be about to lose aggro, that it may jump from him to the wizard. Because with the Ice Comet, if I remember right, back in the day, pretty much no matter when you use it in a fight, whether you've let the tank build up aggro or the necro or whoever else is feeding aggro to the tank, when you use that spell, chances are it's going to want to jump off of whoever it's attacking and come straight for the wizard. Even if it's just kind of like pinballing back and forth and yoing just one back to the other and not really making up its mind about who it wants to attack, it's going to move a little bit because that Ice Comet does so much damage that it's just hard not to still aggro with that spell. So be aware of that. Some people will make a little hotkey so that the tank will be ready for it, or at least not wonder, you know, are you stealing aggro because you don't know what you're doing, or okay, it's just because you cast Ice Comet, and that's the way it's going to be from now on. Because some tanks don't have patience with people, unfortunately, that don't know how to play their class. If you keep stealing aggro, some tanks will get very, very upset about it, and they won't put up with it for long. They keep getting down on you and saying, hey, you know, you need to watch your aggro, and they just keep harassing you about it. Some classes have a very hard time. This Legionnaire was decked out. Some people just have a very hard time keeping aggro, or it's not stealing it from the tank, because for one, certain tanks can hold aggro better than others, and two, if you are seriously trying to do the most amount of damage to a creature as fast as possible, say as like a Necro or something like that, and you're just trying to burn it down, you're gonna still aggro. You literally have to space your spells out. You have to use the right spells in the right order. I know a lot of Necros will argue about what are the greatest spells to use, and sometimes they're not even the most efficient on power or damage. They may have stronger spells that they literally never use because of the reason of aggro. So you kind of have to learn your class, learn the spells, experiment a little bit here and there. Now I know it's kind of hard to do that in a group, because people do get upset if you cause a train or you know aggro issues. But when you're soloing and you're out there by yourself, try a few different spells, see how they match up with you know, power efficiency versus damage. Are you able to sit down longer and use less power and still do somewhat close to the same amount of damage? Because some of the spells out there that I've seen with like the Necro anyways will do tremendous amounts of power or tremendous amounts of damage, but they take quite a bit of power, and then they only last for like 10 seconds. So they do all that damage in 10 seconds, and then you can cast it again. Well, that is a great spell to use if you're in a group and you have a tank constantly taunting and you have clarity on, so you don't really have to worry about your power. But if you're soloing by yourself, something that doesn't last very long but uses a lot of power probably is not the spell you're going to want to use. You want something that's going to damage slowly, use very little power, and something that can stay on them for long periods of time so that you can sit down and meditate or have your pet tank and things of that sort. So it really just depends on the situation and you know, what you're trying to get done and what buffs you have on you, what classes you have in your group. You know, if you have a monk, to my knowledge, monks do not get a taunt. So if they're your main tank, they may be able to tank the creature, but you're going to have aggro issues. You're going to have it where you have to be very, very, very careful with how much you hit, because he's not able to pull it off of you if you steal it. You're going to have to literally let him beat on it. Nobody's going to attack it all, but let him beat on it for you know, a good bubble, maybe bubble and a half before anybody else attacks, just so that the mob doesn't jump on like the wizard or something like that. And this guy's about to die. He's taking hits pretty hard. Been healing him the whole time too. Let me turn so you guys can see a little bit more. I'm a little further away. You guys can't even see the action going on. Sitting here talking about aggro while I'm playing my my cleric. We killed the warlord though. That's not too shabby. That guy's somewhat difficult to kill. And this guy actually has quite a few hit points. He's going through all my power. One more heal should do it. There we go. Now I'll tell him at 10%, because I am probably about that 7%. It's not too far off from the truth. A couple guys looking at my equipment. Not sure if they were trying to loot the corpses I'm sitting on. Chances are that's what they were doing. Let's see, is he gonna pull some more, or she's pulling some more? Wow, usually it will be the tank who likes to pull, but I guess is she a druid or a ranger? Let me check. Who all soothes? She is a bard. Wow, we got a puller for a bard. Or actually the other way around, we have a bard for a puller. 3 adds. Well, I'm gonna need to meditate here. They can stop taking hits that much. She's actually a pretty good tank. She, for a bard anyways, I mean, she really didn't take that many hits. And it doesn't look like she really has that much on. You can see her armor will change as she gets other pieces. And I've mentioned in the past how the female characters in this game will get more and more revealing, where the male characters will look more and more regal. That's not always the case. Like in the case of bards, I believe they get a full plate suit of armor even if they are female. Granted, it is very shapely for the female figure, but it will cover you up pretty good. Oh, I'm getting a little bit of lag here. Let's give it a second, see if it fixes itself. There we go. And you don't really have too many issues on this server. Thankfully, I've not had any link deaths, you know, where it kind of kicks you out because of... there we go. We leveled up. Level 12. So if you guys were counting, let me know how many kills that was. Was I right? Was I close? What did you guys guess? Did you guys guess it? It wasn't too many, I don't think. Because the experience here is pretty good. Not quite as good as in the throne room, obviously. If you can do this area pretty well, my suggestion would be to pull the throne room. And if you're able to pull the throne room a couple of times and still do this area out here, then you might want to consider moving into the throne room. Now, the throne room spawns incredibly quick. So if you don't have a decent healer of some sort that has enough power regenerating fast enough, you may run into some issues because it really is just non-stop killing. And if you guys want to see what that's like, I did a few videos in there already with my Cleric and for my Paladin. And it's hard. You don't get like this downtime right here, this few seconds where you're sitting down and meditating and there's no fights going on. There's literally at least a fight always going on in front of you. It may only be one mob at a time. It may be 2 mobs at a time. It may be even 4 or 5 mobs at a time, depending on how well you guys can keep the room clear and how, you know, busy your puller wants to be, because there's constant stuff to pull on there. There's literally, I don't think I've ever gotten to a group in there where there was nothing to pull for 5 or 6 seconds. It's just a constant pull. The only time you're ever going to have that is if the zone is camped, you know, to the extreme. You may run into those kind of issues. Oracle and Lego 3. Let's see, what am I at? I am at 30%. So I'll let her know so she can decide whether she wants it or not. I should definitely pay attention to that a little bit more so they don't have to wait too much. But 30% is kind of low, so she probably would have waited because I was at 20% when she said it, or close to it. So not too bad. In fact, she's waiting anyways, just so that I can get a little bit more power. And I am at 42% now, so... And let's see, what do we got? It looks like we have a Necro in our group. We have... What is he? We'll go ahead and do a who all on these guys. Oracle first. Yeah, well, that's what you always do. You always do the casters first. They're easiest to kill, and they tend to do the most damage because of their spells. So let's see... I don't see him on here. Maybe I passed him. Nope. A lot of people were anonymous today. I wonder why. Maybe they came in here as a guild and they're doing some farming or something, and they don't want people to know that they're in such a low level. Might hurt their reputation. Who knows what the case is on that one. This guy's easy though. What is he? He's yellow. So there's still quite a few yellows over here. You'll find fewer and fewer mobs that give you decent experience as you get higher and higher. I think this zone shouldn't really be exceeded past level 14 or 15. 15 at the most. If you're still here at 15, you can do it, but it's not going to be worth it for you. Unless you're inside the throne room and you're doing that tower up there to the right, you're probably not going to be getting much experience, if any at all. And even if you are in that room, you'd probably make far more experience and far more enjoyable time if you just went to Unrest. Now, you can go to any zone you want, obviously, and do what you want. The game is open, and there's no set rules, and nobody can tell you, oh, you're too high for this zone, other than the fact that you're no longer getting any experience. But, is he out of range? Where'd he go? Oh, he's pulling. Or she's pulling, I should say. No idea if that's a female in real life, but as her character is female, I'll refer to her as that. Now I'm going to go ahead and heal her, which usually would mean pulling the creatures off. But you can see the Necro back here went ahead and did that for me. So they were on the ball with Attack of the Night. Go ahead and heal these guys up. Go ahead and sit back down. He doesn't like me sitting here. Well, since I'm going to stand, I'm going to go ahead and heal. Move my butt over here. He's on top of me. That's what it was. I thought it was the Lego that just didn't want me to sit down, but the Centurion decided that I'd make a little tasty meal, even though he's light green to me. And really no challenge whatsoever. And I won't get any experience from killing him, but because he hit me, I will still get, you know, the faction hit off of him. So if you're worried about faction, really all you have to do is come over here, even when you're not in a group, toss one little spell on top of the enemy or on top of the group that's fighting them. A heal spell, a buff, you know, invigor, something like that along those lines. And you will still get the faction hit for that creature. And as long as you usually tell the group that's what you're trying to do, most groups won't care. As long as you don't ever train them. If you're sitting like right smack dab in the group and you don't have to worry about you're the reason they got an ad when they didn't want one, you should be fine, especially if you're a healer. Most of them will have no problem whatsoever having an extra healer just sitting in the back healing their people. Because it's not like in Everquest 1 where they initiated that little thing where combat is locked and you can't help the person fighting and you can't attack the creature that they're fighting either. They're the only ones who can attack it. And they did that for reasons of kill stealing. Because in this one, I can pull the creature and say he's my level. So it's going to take me a few minutes to kill him because he has a lot of hit points and I'm not doing terribly amount of damage to him versus somebody who's, say, level 50 attacking a level 15 creature. So I can start attacking him and I can be attacking for 3-4 minutes and get him down to about 60%. A level 50 guy, wizard, can run right by, toss one you know, ice comet spell on him and take the other 60% off. Well, I don't get any experience because he did 51% of the damage. And I don't get to loot the guy because the wizard's the one who did 51% of the damage. So he's able to run by, basically steal the kill that I had been fighting this whole time, maybe even been waiting for. And he'll get the loot. Obviously no experience because it's too low for him. But that's kind of why they initiated that. So the first person to initiate combat in Everquest 2, the combat is locked only for them and nobody else can help, nobody else can interfere. But it also does make it where you can't, you know, help that person out. If you see that he's about to die, you can't toss him a hill. It doesn't work that way anymore. You literally can't help them, which kind of sucks. In this one, if I'm a level 50 cleric and I'm running by and I see a level 20 in trouble, I can toss him a heal him from like 0 life or one hit point to full life, throw a couple buffs on him, make him uber, and I can sit there during the fight and just heal him over and over and over again until he kills it. You know, there's no downside to doing that other than that I'm using my own power and my own time to do it. Let's go ahead and clean some of this stuff up. Now, these pieces of armor, normally I would leave laying here on the ground because they take up space in your inventory. But I recently was picking some of them up, and they sell for a pretty decent amount. Some of them sell for about 5-6 gold a piece. Others sell for a platinum. So yeah, you don't always have to go just for the belts. Granted, the belts are usually gonna be the best money maker in this zone, but it doesn't have to be. You can. These tunics right here actually are pretty decent. I'm actually wearing one right now because it was the best piece that I could get. Go ahead and link these. I don't know what their loot random things on it, if we're doing alphabetical or what with those. Come over here and grab this. And every little bit of your money helps. Okay, they're doing free for all. Yeah, I don't like to assume, because some people can get pretty upset about it. Go ahead and grab one at least. That's another one on there. I'll leave that for somebody else. I'm not too interested in the belts. At this level, around level 10, you really shouldn't be turning in belts for experience anymore. They're really not worth it. For, I would say, about 6 to 8 backpacks full of belts you can get from like level 1 to around level 8 or 9 pretty quickly. But then it will take you probably about twice as many backpacks, maybe 3 times as many backpacks to get from like level 10. Let me heal this guy real quick. To get from like level 10 to level 15. So yeah, it's a pretty big difference. And he may die because I didn't get to him in time. No, they're doing pretty good. And this Warlord is pretty high. I bet he's still red to me. Yeah, he's still red. And they hurt quite a bit. So I'm going to use all my power yet again. Granted, he's a Paladin, so he's able to heal himself just a little bit. But his heal spell that he's using right now, they get at level 9. And basically, it's a level 1 Cleric heal. So not very good. Granted, it's better than nothing, but pretty close to nothing, actually, because it just does not do very many hit points on the heal side. And it takes quite a bit of their power since they're not really a caster. You know, they're kind of like in the middle of a Cleric and a tank. But neither the best of either world. They just kind of exist in some kind of little weird little limbo. But they make pretty decent tanks. Not as good as warriors, but you know, overall, I don't mind having a Paladin. That nice little lay of hands is a lifesaver in a lot of situations. I remember back in the day when I first started, the friend who actually got me started on Everquest bought the game for my brother for his birthday, and he played a Paladin a lot of the time. He had a character called Animosity, and I remember down in Lower Guck, we would constantly be hunting in the same areas. He'd be in one group and I'd be in another group, because having more than one tank is not usually something a group will do at later levels. A lot of them will like to have one really good puller, so it's either going to be a Paladin, a Shadow Knight, you know, a warrior of some kind, sometimes a monk, but if they have a monk, usually they'll have another tank, because most of the time monks do not tank very well, simply for the fact that they don't have a taunt. But in the groups we were doing, it would just be me by myself as far as the tank goes, and I would pull as well, and then my friend would actually be like right down the hall. And I remember there was one time that I was hunting down there, and my group had run out of power, right? My Cleric was out of power, everybody was out of power, and I was about to die. And the creature was almost dead, but I wasn't going to make it, right? And I didn't have a Cleric with me. I think I had a Druid or something like that, so I knew if I died, I wasn't going to get a res. And I was talking to my friend at the time during the fight. I need a break again, sorry, smoke break. So they're going to take a little short break here. But so I sent him a tell while I was talking to him. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to die. And because he's the tank, he's constantly moving around like I was, and we passed each other in the hallways, you know, fighting over the same pools and stuff like that. And because we were friends, I was like, we kind of sanctioned it out and said, you're going to have this area, and I'm going to have this area, and we both kind of got equal pools. And anytime somebody encroached upon us, you know, we would help the other one try to lay claim to that area, so the other guy didn't get in the habit of pulling it. But he came around the corner because he knew what room I was in. He comes running around the corner, and boom, Leia hands me, completely saves me, and the whole group was like, where did that come from? And I'm like, oh, I got a friend down the hallway. And everybody was just, you know, it was amazing to have that kind of relationship with people, that they were willing to come over and use something that, I think it was like 18 hours back then, is the timer that was on Leia hand. So you had to wait like another 18 hours to use that. And so it was one of those emergency spells that you really only used on yourself. Like, you would use it on yourself, or you'd use it on like the healer right before he died, or the enchanter right before he died, because you knew it would save your life in the end. But he used it on me. I'm not even in the same group, because we actually worked together at the same place, and we were friends in real life. And I kind of did the same thing for him once, where I went and used my Death Touch to kill a creature real quick, or Harm Touch, or whatever it was called, for my Shadow Knight. And it didn't kill it outright, you know, you couldn't walk up to a creature, use it, and it would just 100% of its life gone. It did a certain amount of damage, and that's it. As you leveled, it did more and more damage, but it was like at 40% life, and I pushed the button and it just keeled over and it saved his life. So we would do that for each other and things of that sort. But every class has its own benefits. I love Paladins for that ability. I love Shadow Knights for the fatigue death. Harm touch really never really came into play that often, to be honest. I would always save it for those worst case scenarios, but it only did damage. It didn't heal people. And so normally I would use it if the creature was going to kill me and the cleric was out of power, and I'm like, okay, could I kill it if I used it? And every creature would be different because every creature has different amount of hit points and things of that sort. So it's very hard to tell. And some of the creatures at later levels I found actually seemed to do more damage the closer they got to the end of their life. They almost went into like a berserker frenzy kind of thing. And so I would use that harm touch, and it wouldn't quite kill them. It would take them down to like half a bubble of life, and then they would just start pounding away on me and kill me even quicker because I used it. I had to watch out for that. I had to make sure that when I used it, it completely killed them. Otherwise, chances are, you know, that was going to be the end of it. But, you know, because I was using it, it was pretty close to the end anyways. So it was kind of hard to tell in those situations. But I always preferred the Paladin's lay of hands to my death touch. Although I greatly enjoyed the fatigue death that my Shadow Knight got that the Paladins didn't. So they were kind of limited in the pulls that they were capable of doing, or at least the side effects and the downside of the pulls that they would get that would be turned out to be bad. I didn't really have. Like, if they got a bad pull, sometimes you just have to take the bullet and you know, go off in a corner and die so that you don't kill the group. For me, with my Shadow Knight, I never really had to do that. I would just fatigue death, the creatures would walk away, go back to their spawn point, and then I would go back in there and try to pull them again after I got healed up. He never really had that option, so I was able to get really good at breaking some rooms because it's just trial and error. Like, he'd get that one try, and that would be it. I'd get to try fatigue death, they go back and reset, and now I get to try it again. I don't have to wait 5, 10, 15 minutes for them to respawn. I literally get to try right then and there all over again. And I would get it down to where I was pretty good at breaking a lot of the rooms. Go ahead and sit down. So I could do it on the first try later on, but you know, with this game, it really comes down to experience for a lot of things. You need the experience with healing to know when's the best time to do your complete heal. You need the experience to know how to and how fast can you mez, how many dots can you throw on an enemy if you're a necro, how many you know, heals can you do, how many hits with a monk before you start stealing the aggro away, or how much damage do you have to do as a monk to keep the aggro on you if you happen to be the main tank, because that can be an issue as well. So it really comes down to experience in a lot of situations. And I'm not saying like I'm the end-all be-all, because I am not even close to being an expert on this game. I played it for years upon years, and that's the knowledge I have that I try to share with you guys, and the fun that I got from the game. I try to impart that on to you guys as well. But I watch videos of others playing this game, and they're all about like the mechanics, and they know timing and just a whole bunch of stuff that I know nothing about. And you know, I never really got that much into any game where I sat there and learned every little tiny bit about how things work. You know, it's just, I try to keep it fun. I try to keep it enjoyable. Some people greatly enjoy that. I'm not putting it down at all, but I'm not one of those people who do that. So if you're into those type of videos, I may get into it later on as we get further and further into the game and we start getting a little bit more into raiding and things of that sort. Usually at that time, the raid leaders and the raid officers will start explaining things to people who don't know everything, and I'll impart that information onto you guys. But if you're looking for like an expert raider who's going to be able to tell you every little detail about every item, and you know, these items magnify with this other item and creates like this great little set of armor for you, probably not going to be able to do that for you. But if you're looking for somebody who's going to have an enjoyable time and show you different zones and group with people and talk to them and get to know them, then yeah, this is going to be the right place for you. I know Kevin actually grouped with me on Everquest 2 videos the other day, and we shot a whole bunch of them. It's almost like 2 weeks worth of videos in one day. because I usually just do one quest a day for Everquest 2, whereas over here I'll do just like a Let's Play where I play for half an hour to 1 hour, sometimes even longer than that, and just, you know, randomly talk to you guys about things that are going on in the game, or things that I remember happening to me way back when I used to play on the original when it first came out. And I started this game, I think it was, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 months after it came out. I wasn't one of the very first people on the server. I was pretty close, you know, I was there at the start, but not, you know, instantly when it first came out. Because as I said, we got it as a present for my brother. A friend of mine gave it to him. And I remember we got it, and I was looking through the box, the instructions, you know, because it comes with this huge booklet, and it's a game that was so different. And I'm looking at the back, and I'm like, oh, these pictures look beautiful. And back then, it's a little different from now. Maybe kids don't even know what this feels like, but back then, they would have pictures on the back of the box that would show, it's supposed to be what the gameplay looked like, but they would constantly try to mislead you and show you what the video clips looked like. And you would look at it and you'd be like, is that too good to be true? If it was too good to be true, chances are it was video clip footage. And a game that used video clip footage to show you on the back usually sucked, because they're trying to hide the fact that the actual footage of the game sucked really bad, so that nobody would buy it. And this game looked too good to be true. This game looked like video clip footage, and you're looking at it now probably like, oh, it's all blocky. How does this even remotely look close to it? Well, when it came out, this was revolutionary. This was awesome graphics. This was the best you could possibly get for years. And so I was looking at the back of it, I'm like, oh, this is too good to be true. But your friend says it actually looks like that. Okay, we'll try it out, right? And I'm going through the instruction booklet, and I'm checking out the different races, and I'm reading the backstory behind them, because you had to install it off of, I think it was like 16 CDs or something like that, so it was taking a while. And then my brother actually read the instructions wrong, and he thought it said you had to make an account, and then you had to wait like a week to get your password and stuff verified and things of that sort, or 24 hours or something like that. And so I was like, oh, I'm disappointed, right? Like I wanted to see what it looked like now. I wanted to make a character and stuff and play on it. Like, you know, my brother, I don't think was as excited, but he was still pretty excited about playing it. Granted, he's a lot older than I was at the time. I think I was, how old was I? Like 14, 15 maybe? I think I was still in junior high, maybe high school. I'm not sure on that one. But, you know, he was at least about 15 years older than I was, so he wasn't showing like the excitedness that I was. But going through the booklet, because I can't play the game, and reading it and just learning a little bit about the classes and trying to figure out which one I want to play. And ultimately I came down on the Shadow Knight, but on page like, I don't know, page 80 or 90 or something like that, it was talking about getting started and what you need to do, and it talked about how you need to set up an account and put a password in, and then it would immediately send it to you in an email. You confirmed your email address, kind of like it does now, but this was kind of back then when this wasn't the commonplace. And I told him, and he was like, I don't think that's the way it works, but he'd go ahead and check. And he checked, and boom, there it was, already waiting his email. So reading the book actually allowed us to get into the game early, or earlier than it would have been. You know, we would have waited a whole day. But it was amazing. He started making his character, and he made a druid, which he called Demiro. And that's one of the reasons I named my character that, in honor of him, because he passed away about a year and a few months ago. So, but yeah, it was all because of him that I got into these type of games. I remember he actually didn't live with us when I was a little kid, and he would come to visit, and he brought the very first computer I ever saw in my life to the house with him. He was big into electronics, so he always had like the latest and greatest thing. And so he had a computer. And I'm like, well, what does it do, right? It looks cool. You know, what can you do with it? And he was like, oh, you could do a lot with it. He started going off on all of like the technical stuff you can do with it. And then he was like, you can also play games on it. And I'm like, whoa, what kind of games can you play on it? Like baseball, you know, football? Because, you know, I was kind of like an outside kid. In fact, I played football in high school, so I never really lost that. But I was like, what can you do with it? And he's like, oh, there's these text-based games, right? The MUDs, and so I started looking at some of them, and you'll see like in the movie Big, that's like a text-based game with a few graphics thrown into it, where you have to literally type, use the fire rod on the wizard using this spell and go around the corner. You literally had to type out everything you wanted to do, and you had to kind of figure out what commands worked, because the programmers had to put in what commands they thought you were going to use, and then the reactions you get for using those commands. So it wasn't like an infinite amount of stuff you could do. If you typed in something stupid, you may get back a common response. Like I remember in King's Quest, you would get the same kind of comments back where it would say, nope, not that, try something else, and then it would say, nope, not that. It would just keep repeating every time you clicked on something that you weren't supposed to do. It would give you that kind of default, no, try something else. And the MUDs did the same thing, and some of them were pretty funny. Some of them actually knew, but we need to give him the pads and belts for his pools. Oracle. So we're going to have somebody actually come over here and help us pull some creatures in return for some belts and some pads. So I guess that's not too bad of a deal, basically paying him to do it. Let's go ahead and heal our little bard. But yeah, some of those programmers were pretty funny. They realized that people were going to type some pretty obscene stuff in, and they would, if you did that, it would actually punish you. Sometimes if you typed in something obscene, the creature would say, oh yeah, something along the lines of, you're not supposed to do that, and then they'd kill you. Like, just outright kill you. And it's like, what? No! You know, you spent all that time getting there, and because of your own stupidity, your own childness, you go ahead and get killed because you typed something stupid in. And so it's kind of funny that they would throw that stuff in, but I'm gonna be out of power here pretty soon. Who should I heal? I guess I'll do one last heal right here to make sure he doesn't die, and then I'll sit back down. 2 Legionnaires and an Oracle, but we killed the Oracle already. Let's see. Even and even. So the 2 Legionnaires are even at level 12. It's not too bad. Who's going to need a heal? It's the Bard will probably need a heal first. And I love fizzling when you have very little power. That's the greatest. Now I do have enough heal or enough power for one last heal, but I like to save that just in case somebody really starts to go down pretty fast. Let me go ahead and toss one more heal on our Bard. Of course I have to fizzle. There we go. And 2 little Oracles, probably both green. Yeah. So as you can see, you get a lot less experience here as you progress through your levels. You're going to have to go into the harder areas. There we go. So he's pulling some of the harder creatures for us, but I don't really think this is a good deal because he may be pulling the creatures, but we're still taking the hits. And our power is still our power. It's not like we're, packed with clarity or something along those lines. If our guys are getting hit harder because they're getting higher level creatures, he may be able to break the rooms a little bit better, but until he falls, wait for him to fatigue death. Not quite sure why he has to fatigue death. I guess maybe he is damaging him past no, because that doesn't work. Usually if you damage him and then you fatigue death, the creature just gets full life, so maybe that's not how it works in this one. Maybe he gets it down to like 40%, then fatigues death, lets you finish off the last 40%, and then you get the experience for doing it because he basically is out of the fight. Basically he almost zoned because he fatigued death. It like ends the combat, the creature thinks you're dead, and so therefore the encounter is broken. The creature is there for anybody. Like I said before, when you're fighting a creature, somebody else can come by and do the majority of the damage. even though you've already pulled it. So maybe that's exactly what he's trying to do. Target, kill it. Why is he... I don't know what's going on. Let's go ahead and grab this guy for a heal. He's too far. Or she's too far. Got the Emissary and the Centurion. Emissary might be decent experience. Let me see if I can click on him. Oh, this guy was making the rounds for some reason. I didn't even heal anybody, and he was like, oh, we'll just go around and hit every single one of the casters once just to get them up off the floor. Don't like the fact that they're sitting there watching the fight. We want to get them into it. Let's go ahead and sit down. Oh, he doesn't like that. Let's back up a little. Punk. Well, we're going to go ahead and end the episode here, guys. If you like these videos, please hit the like button, subscribe. Definitely leave comments down below. I'd love to hear back from you on what zones you want to see in the future. If you're having trouble with a certain spot, maybe a quest that you're working on. Eventually, I'll get into like the whole epics and things of that sort, but those are really, really, really long quests, and they are incredibly hard to get some of the spawns because they're camped so often. But I will get into those eventually if you're having trouble with those. Again, guys, I want to thank you for watching.